The sound of rain tapping against the workshop roof was the only music that morning. Wilbur Mendoza wiped grease from his hands, staring through the open garage door at the faded gray sky above East Los Angeles. The smell of oil and metal filled the air, the smell of his life. 28 years of repairing engines, replacing brakes, and fixing other people's problems. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments. His old radio played a Spanish ballad, the kind his late wife used to hum when she cooked arroz con pollo on Sundays. He turned the dial down when his phone buzzed. The screen flashed a name that still made his heart skip. Camila. He smiled. Mi hija. He answered quickly, wiping his hands on a rag. Hey, baby girl, haven't heard from you in a while. Hi, Dad. Her voice came through, smooth and sharp at the same time. The voice of a woman who'd outgrown small places. I've got some amazing news. Wilbur leaned against his toolbox, already grinning. Let me guess, you finally got that big client you were talking about? Better, she said, laughing. I'm getting married. For a second, the whole world went still. The humming of the fluorescent light, the tapping rain, everything. He felt warmth rush through him, pride filling every corner of his chest. Camila, you're kidding. Married? That's amazing, mija. He could already see her mother's smile in her face, the way her eyes sparkled when she was excited. Yes, Dad, his name is Ethan Pierce. He's amazing. Runs a design firm in Santa Monica. His family's kind of, well known. Well known? Wilbur chuckled. As in rich? Camila laughed awkwardly. Let's just say his family throws big events. And speaking of that, I wanted to talk to you about the wedding. Of course, Wilbur said. You tell me what you need and I'll make it happen. It's going to be at the Pacific Palisades Botanical Pavilion in June. 200 guests, live orchestra, black tie. Her tone carried both excitement and pressure, like someone who was climbing a ladder and afraid to look down. That sounds beautiful, mija. Your mom would be proud. Wilbur's voice softened. So when do I get to meet the lucky guy? Soon, I promise, Camila said quickly. But, Dad, I wanted to ask, could you maybe help with some of the expenses? Wilbur chuckled again, already reaching for the rag in his pocket. You don't even need to ask. You know I'd do anything for you. It's just the venue, the catering, everything adds up. The estimate is around $60,000 total. Ethan's parents are covering most of it, but I need to contribute something too. I was wondering if you could maybe help with $25,000? Wilbur's heart skipped. That was more money than he'd ever written on a check in his life. But the excitement in her voice, that same little girl excitement from years ago when she'd won a school art contest, melted his hesitation. Of course, mija, you'll have it. You're serious. Oh my God, Dad, you're the best. I knew I could count on you. Wilbur laughed softly. When's the wedding? June 15th, she said. You'll get an invitation soon. But Dad, I have to go, okay? I've got a client meeting in 10 minutes. Love you. The call ended. Wilbur stood there for a moment, staring at the grease on his hands, then at the photograph taped to the cabinet, his wife Lucia holding baby Camila on her lap. You hear that, cariño? He whispered to the photo. Our baby's getting married. 3 weeks later, the check had cleared, the bills were paid, and Wilbur's small home looked cleaner than it had in years. He'd even taken 2 days off work to shop for a proper suit. Something simple, black, elegant. He wanted to look his best walking his daughter down the aisle. That Saturday, he called Camila again. No answer. He texted, Hey, mija, just wondering what color tie I should wear for your big day. No reply. 2 days later, she finally called. Hey, Dad. Her voice was tense this time, as if she was choosing every word carefully. I've been meaning to talk to you about the wedding. Sure, he said, smiling. Everything okay? It's just, Ethan's parents have some concerns. Wilbur frowned. Concerns? They're very particular about appearances. You know, presentation, image. The kind of people they invite are, very high profile. I don't understand, mija. What does that have to do with me? Camila sighed. Dad, I love you, but the guests, the press, it's a black tie event. They're worried you might feel uncomfortable there. Wilbur froze. Uncomfortable? I mean, you work in a garage, Dad. You don't exactly fit in with that crowd. Ethan's parents just think it might complicate things. There was a silence so heavy he could hear the hum of the refrigerator behind him. Camila, he said slowly, are you saying you don't want me there? Her voice cracked just a little. It's just one day, Dad. Please don't make it harder. You'll still be part of everything in spirit. I don't want any embarrassment. Embarrassment, he repeated quietly. Please understand. I love you. I just can't have anything go wrong that day. The line went dead. Wilbur stood in the middle of his kitchen, his calloused hands trembling. He felt the weight of all those years, working double shifts, paying her college tuition, buying her first car, crash down on him in silence. For the first time in his life, Wilbur Mendoza felt small. That night, he sat on the porch, staring at the dark horizon. He wasn't angry yet, just hollow. But when he finally looked in the mirror, something inside him cracked open. He saw the tired eyes, the oil-stained nails, the soft belly under his shirt. He heard her word echo, embarrassment.
That was the moment it began. The revenge wasn't fire, it was ice. Cold, slow, calculated. He picked up his phone, opened the browser and typed, "Personal fitness trainer near me." Then another search, adult education classes, business and communication. And another, custom suit tailoring Los Angeles. If she thought her father was too small for her new world, she was about to meet a version of him she'd never imagined. He whispered to the photo of his wife again. "Lucia, she thinks I'm nothing. Let's show her what nothing looks like when it fights back." The next morning, the alarm clock rang at 5:30 a.m. For the first time in years, Wilbur didn't hit snooze. He stared at the ceiling for a few seconds, then swung his legs out of bed. His knees popped, his back ached, but there was something new behind his eyes, a quiet, burning clarity. The old Wilbur Mendoza might have stayed home, moping over betrayal, but that man was gone now. He pulled on an old gray sweatshirt, tied his shoes, and stepped out into the cool Los Angeles dawn. The street smelled like wet asphalt and blooming jacarandas. For the first time, he wasn't driving to the garage. He was walking toward a small fitness studio 2 blocks down. Silver Line Fitness, owned by a former Marine named Darius Vega. Inside, the place smelled of sweat, rubber, and focus. Darius, tall, bald, built like a mountain, gave Wilbur a once-over. "You must be Wilbur," he said, extending a hand. "You're the one who called about the 12-week transformation package." Wilbur nodded. "Yeah, I need to change everything. Fast." Darius smiled faintly. "Everyone says that. What's your reason?" Wilbur's eyes didn't flinch. "My daughter called me an embarrassment. She's getting married in 12 weeks, and I plan to make sure she regrets those words." Darius whistled. "That's one hell of a motivation." He handed Wilbur a clipboard. "Let's get your numbers first. Height, weight, medical history. Then we start." By the end of the first hour, Wilbur felt like he'd been hit by a truck. Push-ups, treadmill, dumbbells, every muscle screamed. His shirt clung to his body, soaked through with sweat. "You survived day 1, Darius said, handing him a towel. "That's more than most." Wilbur wiped his face. "Tomorrow?" "Same time," Darius grinned. "Don't die before then." Wilbur managed a laugh. It hurt, but it was real. Over the next weeks, pain became routine. Every dawn, Wilbur ran along the cracked sidewalks of East LA, the sunrise painting the skyline orange. He gave up beer, swapped tacos for protein shakes. His coworkers at the garage started calling him Iron Abuelo. At first, they laughed. Then they stopped laughing when they saw the changes. By week 4, Wilbur had dropped 15 pounds. By week 6, 28. His shoulders squared, his posture straightened, his face sharpened, no longer the slumped, tired mechanic who'd once begged for approval. At night, he took online courses in public speaking and business communication. He practiced posture, tone, confidence, everything Camilla said he lacked. He even started reading design magazines, understanding her world. It wasn't just revenge anymore. It was rebirth. One afternoon, after finishing a brutal training session, Darius called out, "You ever think about what you'll do when this wedding comes around?" Wilbur smirked. "Oh, I've thought about it every day." And? He looked down at his calloused hands, stronger now, steady. "I'm not crashing it to yell or fight. That makes me what she thinks I am. No, I'm going to walk in calm, quiet, and uninvited. Let her choke on regret when she realizes who I became." Darius nodded, respect gleaming in his eyes. "That's not revenge, man. That's evolution." By mid-May, Wilbur's transformation was undeniable. He was now 180 pounds of pure determination. His salt and pepper beard was neatly trimmed, his gray hair styled back with precision. Even his skin looked younger. He walked into a tailor shop in downtown LA, Esteban & Sons Custom Clothiers, a small boutique known for dressing film producers and politicians. "Good afternoon, sir," said Esteban himself, a man in his 60s with silver-framed glasses. "What can I do for you?" Wilbur smiled faintly. "I need a suit, something that makes people forget I ever wore grease-stained coveralls." Esteban chuckled. "Ah, transformation suit, my favorite kind." The measuring tape whispered around Wilbur's arms, chest, and waist. Esteban nodded approvingly. "You've got strong shoulders. Let's honor that. Maybe a navy Italian wool with black lapel, yes?" Wilbur nodded. "And I'll need it ready by June 15th. Esteban looked up. "Tight deadline." "Not tighter than what I've been through." Esteban smiled knowingly. "Then we'll make it perfect." Meanwhile, Camilla's life was unfolding exactly how she planned, at least from the outside. Instagram-perfect smiles, champagne brunches, wedding fittings with designer gowns. Ethan's family adored her ambition, her poise. They believed her story, that her father had passed away years ago after a long illness. It was easier that way. A dead man can't embarrass you. But deep down, Camilla felt something like a shadow following her. She ignored it, pushed it away. She was marrying into perfection. Nothing could ruin it. Back in East LA, Wilbur finished his final fitness checkup. Darius whistled low. 60 days and you're a different species, man. Seriously, you look like you run your own company. Wilbur smirked. Not bad for an embarrassment, huh? Darius handed him a small metal coin, one side engraved with a Spartan helmet, the other side with a quote. "Pain is the price of rebirth." "Keep that," Darius said. "You earned it." Wilbur turned it in his palm. The metal was cool, heavy, honest. He nodded. Now comes the real workout. That evening, he drove to Santa Monica for the first time in years. Ethan's family mansion stood like a marble fortress near Ocean Avenue. Manicured lawns, security gates, imported fountains. Through the iron bars, Wilbur could see the preparation tents already going up for the wedding weekend. He parked across the street and watched silently. Caterers moved like ants. Florists unloaded hundreds of white roses. It looked like a dream, the kind of dream money could buy. Wilbur rolled down the window, took a slow breath, and said quietly, "She sold her soul for this view." He didn't feel anger anymore, only a deep, steady purpose.
The next morning, he made a single purchase at a print shop in Pasadena, an embossed envelope on heavy cream paper, sealed with gold foil. Inside was a professionally printed invoice that read, "Invoice number 001, the price of exclusion. Client, Camila Mendoza Pierce. Description, emotional damages, disrespect, and dignity restoration fee. Total, $25,000 plus interest, plus respect upon delivery. Due date, June 15, 2025. Prepared by Wilbur J. Mendoza." He smiled as he slid it into his suit jacket. By June 10th, he was ready. New suit pressed, hair styled. A quiet storm beneath calm eyes. He looked at Lucia's photo one last time. "Wish you could see this, cariño. Our little girl forgot where she came from, but I'm going to remind her, gently." He placed a single white rose beside her frame, then turned off the lights. June 15th, the wedding day. The sky over the Pacific shimmered with gold as the sun dipped low. Cars lined up outside the Pierce estate. Teslas, Bentleys, BMWs, every kind of luxury on display. Waiters in white gloves served champagne to guests dressed in designer gowns and tuxedos. At exactly 4 p.m., the string quartet began to play. Camila appeared, radiant in silk, holding Ethan's arm as she walked down a flower-lined path. Photographers clicked, guests sighed. It was everything she'd ever dreamed. Except something felt strange. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw a man standing near the gate, tall, confident, dressed immaculately in navy. He wasn't on the guest list. He looked familiar. Their eyes met. Camila froze mid-step. Her heart stuttered. It couldn't be. It wasn't possible. The man smiled softly. Then he raised a hand, a small, casual wave. The color drained from her face. The champagne flute she was holding slipped from her grasp, shattering on the stone floor. Guests turned to look. Ethan whispered, "Camila, what's wrong?" She couldn't speak. All she could see was the man her new family thought was dead, walking through the crowd like he owned the ground under his feet. The whisper started the moment Wilbur stepped through the gate. The guards didn't stop him. Who would dare question a man dressed like that? His suit was tailored to perfection, his posture regal, his gray hair slicked back like silver armor. Every step he took echoed with quiet authority. He could feel the eyes on him, guests turning, murmuring. Even the music faltered for a moment. Camila stood at the altar, pale as moonlight. Her fiancé, Ethan, followed her gaze, confusion on his face. "Camila," he whispered, "who is that?" She swallowed hard. I don't know." Wilbur walked calmly down the aisle, not rushing, not hiding. The crowd parted for him instinctively, like the tide giving way to a ship. When he reached the front, he stopped 5 feet away from them and smiled. The same gentle, warm smile he used to give her as a child when she'd come home crying from school. "Don't let me interrupt," he said quietly, his voice deep and calm. "Please, continue." The priest froze. Ethan looked between them, realization dawning too late. "Wait, this is your father?" Camila's voice broke. "He's not supposed to be here." Wilbur chuckled softly. "That's what you told everyone, isn't it? That I wasn't supposed to be anywhere? That I was dead?" Gasps rippled through the guests. Even the violinists stopped playing. Camila's perfect facade, the designer dress, the flawless makeup, started to crack. Her hand trembled on Ethan's arm. "Dad, please," she whispered, her voice tight with panic. "Not here." "Ah," Wilbur said, nodding thoughtfully. "That's what you told me last time, too, remember? Not here, Dad. You'll embarrass me." He looked around at the guests, elegant people with polite horror in their eyes.
Well, I wouldn't want to embarrass anyone. Then he turned to the priest and said politely, "Please continue the ceremony." The priest stammered, unsure what to do. But Ethan, now visibly angry, took a step forward. "Mr. Mendoza, please, this is my wedding. If you want to talk, we can—" Wilbur held up a hand. "You seem like a good man, Ethan. I don't blame you for this. You were told I died, yes?" Ethan hesitated. "She said you passed away when she was in college." The silence that followed was unbearable. Even the waves crashing against the nearby cliffs seemed to hold their breath. Wilbur's voice softened. "No, son, I didn't die. I just stopped being good enough to be seen." He turned to Camila. "You took my money, mija. $25,000, everything I had saved from a lifetime of work. You said it was for your perfect wedding, but you didn't want your imperfect father to attend." Tears shimmered in Camila's eyes now. "Dad, please stop. I'll explain." Wilbur shook his head. "You don't need to explain. You already did when you said the word embarrassment." Then he reached inside his jacket. Gasps rose again, but he only pulled out a cream envelope. He held it delicately between two fingers. "This," he said, "is my wedding gift to you." Camila blinked through her tears. "What is it?" Wilbur handed it to her. An invoice. She opened it with trembling hands. Her eyes scanned the lines. Invoice number 001, the price of exclusion. Emotional damages, disrespect, and dignity restoration fee, $25,000 plus interest. Payment terms, respect upon receipt. A few guests chuckled awkwardly. Others frowned, realizing this was no joke.
Wilbur spoke clearly so everyone could hear. "You see, when she told me I wasn't fit to attend, I realized something. I'd spent my whole life paying for her dreams, but never once charged for the cost of my own humiliation." He paused, letting the weight of his words hang in the ocean air. "I worked with grease under my nails so she could have clean hands. I fixed cars in the heat so she could study in air-conditioned classrooms. And when her moment came, when her success should have been ours, she erased me." Camila covered her face with her hands, sobbing. "Dad, please," she whispered. "I made a mistake." Wilbur nodded slowly. "We all make mistakes, mija, but some of us learn from them." He turned slightly, addressing the guests directly, calm, steady, never raising his voice. "You all see a beautiful wedding, but behind it stands a truth every parent here should remember: the danger of raising children who value appearance over gratitude." A murmur of agreement swept through the crowd. Even Ethan's mother, seated near the front, dabbed her eyes with a handkerchief. Wilbur looked at his daughter one last time. "You could have had both worlds, Camila, a rich husband and a proud father. But you chose to bury the man who built your foundation. So consider this invoice a receipt, not for money, but for your conscience." He tucked his hands in his pockets, calm as the evening tide. Then he smiled faintly at Ethan. "Take care of her, son. She's ambitious, but don't ever let her sell your soul for her image." He turned and began walking away. The silence broke into a low ripple of whispers, then into applause, hesitant at first, then stronger, rising like a wave. Not mockery, respect. The priest looked lost, unsure what to do next. Ethan reached for Camila, but she was frozen, her makeup streaked, her perfect world unraveling in front of everyone she tried to impress. Wilbur didn't look back. Outside, the air was cooler, fresher. The ocean breeze carried the sound of applause faintly behind him. He stopped near his truck, leaned against the door, and exhaled deeply. Darius's words echoed in his mind. Revenge isn't about hurting them. It's about reminding them what they lost. He smiled. He hadn't shouted, hadn't humiliated. He'd simply told the truth. And truth, when spoken by someone who's no longer afraid, is the most powerful revenge of all. That night, Wilbur sat on his porch again. Same chair, same sky. But he wasn't the same man. His phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Camilla. I don't know if you'll ever forgive me. You didn't embarrass me today. You showed me what I've become. I'm sorry, truly. Wilbur read it twice, then set the phone down. He poured himself a small glass of whiskey, his first in months, and raised it toward the stars. To you, Lucia, he said softly. I think she finally saw me again. The next morning, Wilbur was back at the garage. When his coworker Benny saw him, he whistled. Damn, Jefe, you look like a movie star. Didn't recognize you. Wilbur smiled, tightening a wrench on a half-finished engine. Guess I just did a little spring cleaning. Benny grinned. You hear from your daughter yet? Wilbur nodded. Yeah, she texted. What'd she say? That she's sorry. Benny raised an eyebrow. You forgive her? Wilbur thought for a moment, the metal tool glinting in his hand. Forgiveness is earned, he said quietly. But at least she knows I'm alive. 3 months later, a letter arrived in his mailbox. Inside was a photograph. Camilla, smiling shyly, standing beside Ethan. On the back, written in neat handwriting. For the man who taught me what dignity looks like. Love, your daughter. Wilbur smiled faintly and pinned it beside Lucia's photo. Then he went back to work, the hum of the engine filling the shop. The grease was still there, but now it shined like armor. Moral. Respect isn't bought with money. It's earned through truth, sacrifice, and love. And even the quietest father can teach the loudest lesson when his dignity is at stake. The garage smelled the same, oil, rubber, and rain-soaked asphalt. But everything else had changed. It had been a year since that wedding at the Pacific Palisades Pavilion, a year since Wilbur Mendoza walked into a world that tried to bury him and walked out carrying his dignity instead. Since then, his story had quietly spread, not through gossip, but through respect. Neighbors whispered about the mechanic who showed up at the mansion wedding and taught everyone about pride. Someone had filmed part of his speech that day. It had gone viral on social media, racking up millions of views. They called it the father's invoice. At first, Wilbur was embarrassed by the attention. He didn't do it for fame. He did it to reclaim his soul. But soon, people started showing up at his garage, strangers, fathers, even young men, asking for advice, asking how to rebuild after being discarded. He didn't know what to say at first. He wasn't a guru, just a man who got tired of being invisible. Then, one day, a young man named Marco walked into the shop. He was barely 22, tattoos crawling up his arms, his voice rough but uncertain. "Are you the guy from the wedding video?" he asked. Wilbur smiled. "Depends who's asking." "The guy who said respect is earned, not given." Wilbur nodded. "Yeah, that was me." Marco looked around the workshop. "You mind if I work here? I don't need much. I just need to learn." Wilbur studied him. There was something in Marco's eyes, a hunger, the same kind Wilbur had seen in his mirror a year ago. He nodded. "You can start Monday. We'll see what you're made of." That Monday turned into months. Marco learned fast. He wasn't just fixing cars, he was learning life. Wilbur taught him how to work hard, how to keep promises, how to carry himself with quiet strength. Sometimes, over lunch, they'd talk about family. "You think you'll ever forgive your daughter?" Marco asked one afternoon. Wilbur didn't answer immediately. He was cleaning a wrench, eyes focused on the reflection of light on steel.
She asked me that too, he said finally. The truth is, forgiveness isn't a moment. It's a process. Like rebuilding an engine. You can't rush it. You clean out the damage piece by piece, until it runs again. Marco nodded slowly. You miss her? Wilbur smiled faintly. Every day. One Sunday morning, a soft knock came at his door. When he opened it, he froze. Camilla stood there, holding a small box in her hands. Her hair was shorter now, her eyes tired but honest. No designer clothes, no makeup mask, just a daughter facing her father. Hi, Dad. Wilbur leaned against the doorframe, silent. She swallowed hard. Can I come in? He nodded. Inside, she looked around the modest living room. The same family photos, the same old recliner, the same framed picture of her mother on the shelf. The only difference was the small white rose beside it, always fresh, always replaced. I visit her grave every month now, Camilla said quietly, following his gaze. I talk to her. I tell her I'm trying to be better. Wilbur's throat tightened. And what does she say? Camilla smiled weakly. That you'd forgive me if I learned how to. She set the box down on the table and opened it. Inside was a framed photo, a picture from her wedding, taken just moments before everything fell apart. But this time, it had been edited. She had replaced the image of Ethan's family behind her with one of her father, smiling, standing proud. I had this made for you, she said softly. It's how I wish that day had really looked. Wilbur stared at it, unable to speak. I lost a lot after that wedding, she continued. Friends, clients, reputation. People saw what I did, and they were disgusted. I deserved it. But it forced me to look at myself. I started volunteering at a community design center, helping low-income families decorate their homes. She smiled sadly. Turns out, working with real people feels a lot better than designing penthouses for rich ones. Wilbur finally looked up. And Ethan? Camilla's voice was calm, not bitter. We divorced. He didn't like the attention. Said the wedding scandal ruined his company's image. But honestly, I think it saved me. They sat in silence for a long time, only the ticking clock filling the room. Then Wilbur spoke, his voice low and steady. Camilla, I never wanted to ruin your life. I just wanted you to see what you were doing, not just to me, but to yourself. She nodded. I know, and you did. I saw it too late, but I saw it. Her eyes glistened. Dad, I don't expect forgiveness, but can I start earning it? Wilbur stood, walked to the cabinet, and took down Lucia's photo. He placed it gently in Camilla's hands. She always said you had her eyes, he murmured. If she were here, she'd tell me to stop being stubborn. Camilla smiled through tears. So, what would you tell her? He exhaled slowly. That I'm trying. Then he opened his arms. For a moment, Camilla hesitated. Then she stepped forward and hugged him, trembling. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. Months passed again. Wilbur and Camilla slowly rebuilt their bond. Coffee on Sundays, short visits, long silences that didn't hurt anymore. She even helped him redesign the garage. New sign, cleaner layout, a small office corner for consultations. They called it Mendoza Motors and Mentorship. On the opening day, a reporter from a local TV station came to interview them. So, Mr. Mendoza, she asked, you've become somewhat of an online legend, the man who invoiced his daughter for disrespect? What message do you want to leave people with? Wilbur chuckled. I'm not a legend, just a man who got tired of being ashamed of himself. My message is simple. Love your children enough to teach them respect, and love yourself to demand it back. The reporter smiled. Beautifully said. And Miss Mendoza, what about you? Camilla met the camera's gaze calmly. I learned that success without humility is failure wearing a mask. I'm proud to be my father's daughter, finally. That night, after everyone had left, Wilbur sat alone in the garage. The new sign glowed softly outside.
Mendoza Motors, and mentorship. He ran his hand over the polished workbench, feeling the smoothness of wood that had seen decades of stories. He picked up the old Spartan coin Darius had given him a year earlier. Pain is the price of rebirth. He turned it between his fingers, smiling. The door creaked open behind him. Camilla peeked in. "Hey, Dad." "Yeah? Want to grab dinner?" "I was thinking," she grinned. "Tacos, like old times." Wilbur laughed, standing and grabbing his jacket. "You're learning, mija. Let's go." As they stepped outside, the evening breeze carried the faint scent of gasoline, roses, and possibility. For the first time in years, Wilbur didn't feel like the man who'd been erased. He felt like the man who'd rewritten his own story. Life will test your dignity. Sometimes the people you love the most will be the ones who forget your worth. But never let anyone convince you that love means silence. Because real love, the kind that heals, begins where pride ends and respect begins. And if you ever feel invisible, remember Wilbur Mendoza, the father who turned his humility into a lesson the whole world would never forget. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.